Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. It's Monday, January 11th at 4 p.m. May I get a roll call?
Stacy Giomi.
Here.
Bobby Rader.
Here.
Mike Jones.
Present.
Steve Kim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time I'll ask for any public comment.
I see no public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We'll move on to item 5. Possible approval of the minutes for the December 14th, 2020 CTA board meetings. Open it up for discussion if there's any changes or corrections that need to be made. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the December 14th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. The adoption, item 6, adoption of the agenda. Does anybody see any reason to change the agenda other than it's presented? Hearing no changes, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which covers items 7 and 8. Does any member of the board wish to have any individual action item pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? Does any member of the public wish to have any item pulled for discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to item 9, discussion and possible action regarding the nomination and election of a chairperson for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Board of Directors. The CTA Board will nominate and elect a member of the CTA Board to serve as chairperson of the CTA Board. The term of the appointment will commence immediately and expire at the January 2023 CTA Board meeting. I'll open it up for discussion before we take action.
I have no discussion, but I'm prepared to make a motion.
I'm sorry, Stacy.
I have no discussion, but I'm prepared to make a motion. I move to appoint Mike Jones as chairperson of the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors for a 2-year term.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, possible action regarding the nomination and election of a vice chairperson for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Board of Directors. It'll be for the term expiring at January 2023 CTA Board meeting. And again, I'll open for discussion and nominations.
You're the current vice chair, correct? Okay, I have no discussion.
Can I get a second?
No, I didn't make a motion,
You did?
but I will if you'd like me to.
Okay. All in favor?
Chair,
I
Stacey
didn't
did not
make the
actually make a
motion.
motion. He didn't make a motion.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
can't hear you, David.
Can you hear me? I will make a motion. Do you want me to?
Yes.
I move to approve Bobby Rader as vice chair of the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority for a 2-year term.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. On to action item 11, regarding the nomination and election of a secretary and a treasurer for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Board of Directors. I think I'll turn this over to Todd for some explanation on this. Todd?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The election of a secretary and a treasurer for CTA is slightly different than the election of the chairperson and the vice chairperson. Pursuant to statute, the chairperson and the vice chairperson have to be members of the board. Pursuant to statute, however, the secretary and the treasurer do not have to be members of the board. The board, if it so chooses, can appoint somebody other than a board member to serve in that position or those positions. The statute also says that one person can serve as the secretary and the treasurer. So the board has the option of either appointing a secretary and a treasurer who are different people, or one person to serve as secretary and treasurer. A question was also asked as to whether the board can appoint a position instead of a person. So, for example, can the board appoint the operations manager of CTA to serve as the secretary and treasurer of the board? And the answer is that yes, it can. This is called a ex officio appointment, essentially meaning by virtue of occupying the position, you also serve as secretary and treasurer. So if the board chooses, it can also appoint a position ex officio instead of appointing a person.
Thank you. Stacy?
Yeah, on this topic, thanks, Todd, for the info. I would not favor appointing a position. I think we, as a board, know the current incumbent in the operations manager role, and we know the job that Chris does, and I would not be comfortable just appointing that position without knowing who's in the position. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
No, I think that makes sense, but we can do either, right? Either the position or the person, Todd, if I understand it correctly.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. You can appoint the position or the person. The difference is that if you appoint the position, then the person will cease to be secretary or treasurer when he or she resigns the position. If you appoint a person, then the person will continue to be secretary or treasurer if he or she resigns the position. Of course, that person could also resign as a secretary or treasurer at the same time.
And could we not unappoint them?
Supervisor Jomey, you could also unappoint them. Yes, you're correct.
Thank you. Chris, you plan on leaving anytime soon? Okay, thanks.
Are you willing to do it?
Do you have a choice? Just kidding.
You're kind of doing the job anyway, right now. So if we all are in agreement, can I get a motion?
Sure. I move to appoint Chris Kipp as Secretary Treasurer of the Carson City Cultural and Tourism Authority Board of Directors for a 2-year term with our deep gratitude.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I'll move us on to item 12, non-action items for presentation and discussion only. Executive Director update.
Thank you, Chair Jones. For the record, Dave Peterson, Executive Director with the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. I'll be brief on my Executive Director report. I've got 3 things that I want to talk through. First thing, if you recall back in December, James mentioned that he was pulling together information from lodging and non-lodging properties in Carson City that have convention and/or small meeting room space. I'm very happy to say that Lydia took that information during the break and built out a section of our meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions section of the .biz website. So I'm going to ask Lydia to bring that up on the computer so you all can see how this looks. So that's our Mice Travel page on the website. And then for each of the locations that we've identified so far that have lodging, or excuse me, they're lodging or non-lodging, convention and meeting space, You see all of those there. We're still waiting on a few, so James is still working with like WNC to get some information from those folks, and then Adams Hub as well. And once we have that information, we'll add it. But I thought, Lydia, if we could maybe bring up, just say Carson Nugget Ballroom as an example. And then if you'll scroll, yep. So a little description, square footage, occupancy, what the different rooms look like, type of tables, catering on site or not, and audio visual. This information and what we've displayed here is based on conversations that I've had with the lodging properties who want to use this as a resource to help not lose groups, let's say, or potential opportunities for Carson City. And so I work with some lodging properties to come up with that breakdown. And then we've got the great photos in there. We're still waiting on some photos, obviously, for a handful of locations. And maybe Lydia used here in the theater. Or if you want to show maybe the Bank Saloon too, you can see the pictures. So this week, we're going to follow up with everyone, and I'm going to share this out to the lodging properties as well. Again, a handful of the properties were asking for this kind of information, wanting to know what's out there beyond just the lodging facility. So great pictures, obviously, with the Bank Saloon. So that's where we're at. Site built out. Great job to Lydia and James, obviously, for pulling that initial information together. So if there are any questions on that, I'm happy to address. If not, I'll move on to the CARES Relief Fund grants that we received back in November. I'm happy to say that the reimbursement requests and all the backup materials were provided to Travel Nevada last Friday. Hats off to Chris for putting together all of the folders and copying and getting all this information together, and for Lydia for adding in all the narrative and getting all the images that we had to provide to Travel Nevada. So from our perspective, we've met all the requirements of those 3 grants, and we hope to see the reimbursement later this month or the first part of February. So great job to the team for that. And then my last update, just a quick update on the Arts and Culture Program Services RFP. Today, the proposals are due, and the evaluation committee will review and get together this Friday to discuss the proposal that came in. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, transient occupancy tax, actual versus forecast.
Thank you, Chair Jones. In your packet, you have the Carson City taxable lodging revenue, actual versus forecast. I'm very happy to say that November came in way ahead of the projection. So if you recall, last month I was thinking we were going to be down about 30% as compared to November 2019. We came in down 7.25%. But I did, Stacy, based on the conversation that we had at the December board meeting, go and take a look at the rest of the fiscal year. But what I wanted to mention in terms of the projections for December, January, and February, I had some good conversations, literally last week when I came back on Tuesday, with several properties on the north end of town who have benefited from the traveling nurses program with the hospital, and this has been really critical, I do believe, to their lodging tax numbers. And then the other thing that is very interesting in talking with several properties is same-day reservation and walk-up business right now, being driven by almost exclusively by California residents and the ski and border winter recreation market. So with what I talked to some of these folks on the phone again last week about December, January, February with the traveling nurses program continuing on right now as they understand it through the first week, and Steve, you may have some intel on this too, but through the first week at least of February, I tried to take that into consideration in terms of reforecasting December, January, and February as compared to the prior months in 2020. And then, Stacy, I did go back and pull down the forecast for March through June as compared to March through June in 2019, just given how weird the numbers were for 2020 during those months. So you see now we're projected at 17.95 million, and that's about 11% well, it's exactly 11% higher than the budget forecast that we submitted last May to taxation. And as compared to actual 2020, fiscal 20, we're projecting to be up 4.37%. So I just wanted to talk through with all of you the conversation. Again, I literally had this Tuesday when I came back with that information to kind of rework December, January, February, knowing what I know now about the traveling nurses program. And then it's kind of squirrely with this same day reservation and walk-up reservation business that's going on right now. So that's kind of where I've got us right now. And then obviously my hope is if the timing is right before the February board meeting, I hope that we'll have December actual to take a look at and see how December looks. And then, of course, I'll reproject January and February accordingly. So that's where we're at in terms of kind of a point in time here for today.
Any questions from the board? No? We'll move on to item C, marketing update and PR update. Lydia?
Good evening, Board. Lydia Briggy, Marketing Manager for the record. I want to preface this, throughout the presentation, I have the photos from our winter photo shoot throughout here, so take note of those. But we'll start getting into the marketing and the PR. I wanted to take this time to kind of recap our calendar year and the progress that we made through 2020, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So we'll go through a few things to talk about. So we'll do the recap with our messaging and our evolution of what we pushed to our potential visitors throughout the year. We'll recap our projects, our social media channels, paid and organic, our website performance, our print ads, what we did in print, as well as our future, and then what we think we are going to be doing in 2021. And then we'll go through more of the photos for the winter photo shoot as well. So let's recap our messaging. We started the year off with our new taglines that we approved later in 2019. We started off strong with "Where History Lives and Adventure Awaits." It wasn't live for very long before March came along, and we shut down all of our paid advertising for 4 months. And so that's when we transitioned to the Visit Carson City Later campaign, where we went dark, but we were still posting hopeful messaging. Our "We Missed You" video that we did that performed really well. We also did our all restaurants that are open performed really well and is still performing fairly decently on our website too. So once we were able to push more travel messaging, we transitioned to the Visit Carson City Safely and Discover Your Capital, which those two campaigns have really yo-yoed back and forth throughout the year as travel has started to open back up and then obviously shut down and open back up again. So it's been an interesting year promoting travel, but I feel like, we handled it with grace and did what we could with the resources that we had. So our projects, we had photo shoots, banner projects, and a lot more. So in July, we completed a beautiful summer photo shoot with Jeff Dow, which set us up for this year. And we've used those images a lot already. But we also received grants for our winter photo shoot that we just completed, our banner grant and our influencer grant, which are influencers we talked about all last month. So while we're on the topic of banners, I wanted to show you some photos if you haven't seen them downtown already. These are all through Carson Street, and we have bracketing to hopefully go down Curry Street as well and replace some of the poles that got removed on North Carson Street. So the Safely that you see on there is actually a decal and removable, which make these a little more evergreen. And then each of these are a mix between our beloved groups in town, like Muscle Powered, locations, attractions, and we really wanted to give people something beautiful to look at, but something also helpful so they know what they're looking at too, instead of just a photo, and obviously where they can find it on our website. And then we also transitioned to what Dave talks about a lot as, instead of a destination marketing organization, a destination management organization, where we became a information station for a lot of things of COVID-related messaging and what's happening in Carson City. And especially since Zach's arrival, I think he's done a really incredible job of creating content of our own to support our attractions, our museums, restaurants, lodging properties. We created ads and blogs to show the numerous changes that occur and continue to occur, including that restaurant blog too, which obviously was in huge help from the chamber too. And moving on to our organic and our paid social. So even though we went 4 months without any paid advertising, we still increased our total audience by almost 15%. We're at a total audience combined of 19,541 followers. We delivered 2.85 million impressions. 1.5 of those million impressions were paid. And we generated 27,000 post-link clicks. To give you some comparison, we had about 38,000 in 2019. I feel like if we would have had our paid advertising, we would have trended, if not surpassed that. The good news is that our engagement rate per impression is actually up last year. So there's more engagement with our brand, which I think, which made me quite excited, especially with all the changes that we made in early 2020. We also grew our Instagram following by 20.5%. We netted 1,000 followers. We posted 423 posts and stories in 2020. We grew our Facebook following by 16.42%, netting 1,300 followers. We posted about 250 posts for that. And Rail Bikes continues to be one of our most popular content pieces across all platforms and one of the most talked about. Overall, I think 2020 was a year of better content, better engagement, because we had a better website and more things to engage with on that site. So social posts with the most reactions. It might be a little hard to see, but these were our top posts across Instagram and Facebook, whether it was beautiful imagery from a balloon from Nevada Day to our lights on the governor's mansion or the Capitol to Wild Horse Talk to our restaurant blog, and even talk about the Kit Carson Trail, giving fun information about the shootist, knowing that John Wayne shot a movie here. It was kind of across the gamut, and even the Mint 150, which seems like an eternity ago, even though it was in February, was also a really popular content piece. So I'm happy to see that we have a variety of different contents that are appealing to a lot of different people. And let's check out the website stats from 2020. We were up across the board in comparison to 2019 numbers, which was really promising. So you can see these different boxes here. This one on the upper left is our email campaign, which we weren't doing a lot of in 2019 because of the website. We were really doing some kind of basic content, but we're up almost 1,000% in our clicks from our emails. Our display advertising is performing really well. Our paid search is up 72%, and our social advertising is up 500%. And on the right is where the breakdown of the social channels come from. So our paid social is from our Instagram and Facebook. We had over 10,000 clicks from that. Facebook organic was down, but I expected that given that we were not posting as much this year, given the COVID. Our Pinterest has been performing really well. We've had almost 1,000 clicks from that, just posting and repurposing blog content from our influencers. And then Travel Nevada actually mentioned us in one of their newsletters and allowed us to do a URL to be able to track the clicks from that newsletter, and we had over 700 from that. So that was our fourth performing campaign. And we'll move into the PR report recap. So in 2020, we had 455.9 million unique visitors per month to the site. We reached over 1 million people in print, and it had a publicity value of $340,802. Overall in December, so you know what happened last month, we were featured in 5280 online. Two Travel Dads was our influencer that we brought in, so we had multiple blogs from him as well as a podcast. Getaway Reno Tahoe did a wonderful feature on how to shop local in Carson City for the holidays. South Tahoe Now talked about all the Christmas movie locations that were shot around the area, and we were also in Adventure Sports Journal. And on to print. So a while back, Stacey, you mentioned you had seen the billboard through Tonopah. That is going to be up until the end of our fiscal year, and we're hopeful that we'll continue to have those throughout next year as well. I think it turned out quite nice. And then on the right-hand side is an ad that we put in the chamber map that it will be there for, they'll be utilizing that map for a few years. And then these are our future ads. So Golfing Nevada Magazine has been a partner for ours for the last couple of years. And so the ad on the left will be a full-page ad in their magazine that is throughout the year, as well as our 3 golf courses have their own full-page features. So Carson City is represented very well in that magazine, which is why we continue to do that, and hopefully playing on a little bit of humor. Hopefully that plays well. Our other ad to the right is a half-page ad featured in Travel Nevada's Visitor Guide, which is also an annual publication. So we really wanted to be in longer publications if we were going to spend money on print advertising this year. So what's to come in 2020? It's hard to predict. I'm not sure anybody knows quite yet, but I was listening to the Destination Analyst, Aaron, who did presentation for us a while back. They have their weekly publication, our weekly webinar, and there's optimism about traveling in Q1 with younger generations like Millennial and Gen Z, but most of the confidence for the overall travelers are pushed mid-year or until about 6 months from now. The vaccine is really the threshold of maintaining confidence in how quickly that rolls out and how quickly travel will pick up. But for us, we're just going to stay the course. We're going to continue to promote locally and throughout Nevada, and that we're an open and safe destination. And once things change, we'll adjust quickly and accordingly to the climate as we have. But most importantly, I think we're just going to focus on creating great content that is engaging and inspires travel to Carson City whenever people are ready. And I think Zach's helped us really, really up our game on that very quickly since he's been here. So speaking of amazing content, here's some videos that we repurposed with our SAFE campaign from the winter photo shoot that was part of our grant requirement. So that's just a taste of some really short snippets that we were using on social media. Zach's in the process of actually doing more of a 30-second commercial, which we'll be testing out on advertising on Hulu, which we're able to do ourselves now instead of going through a third-party website. So I'm really excited to try that out. We're going to be creating that this week in hopes that we have that completed and launched by February, hopefully within the next week or so. But we definitely want to run that all throughout February. And that'll continue to go on YouTube as well. And here are some shots from our winter photo shoot that I think Brian Walker did a really incredible job. So we were up at Hobart Reservoir, which is where the top panorama was taken and the snowshoeing and all of these were taken. And then this is at the Eagle View Open Space, which has a loop, mountain biking loop that's pretty popular. It's just right up in Ash Canyon. We were out at Silver Saddle Ranch, Prison Hill. We did a great shoot at the patio at the Union, which I think really showcased how close we are to the mountains downtown. We also did some night shots up at Prison Hill and at Eagle View. We were at the waterfall as well. And we were on some of the new bike paths that were built at the Carson River Trail System that was just completed. And that's the update so far. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to field them, but thank you for your time.
I have one.
Casey?
Lydia, what's the reach on Hulu? What marketing, how does that, can you elaborate on how that works a little bit?
It's pay to play, so you pay per impression. So they'll tell you if you're going to put $1,000, which is usually $500, I think is the minimum spend, but we're looking to probably go around the $1,000 mark because I think it'll have more impact and make it worthwhile. I would imagine, if I remember correctly, it's going to be around 100,000 impressions, but it's very targeted. So we can even do people who are interested in winter activities and winter sports, and we'll probably stick close to Nevada on that one.
And how does, I do have a Hulu account, I just don't look at it that often. So how do they get that content? Do they request it? Does it show up in between videos? Does it?
Right. So Hulu has two different accounts. One that is with ads, or you can pay to not have ads. So it would be delivered to the accounts that pay to not have the ads or pay less, so they or have ads delivered to them. And then we upload it all on the website, on the hub that they have. And then based off of the content and the targeting that we put in, it will deliver to that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Consumer.
Any other questions for Lydia?
Right. Thank you.
We'll move. Thank you, Lydia. Good report. Item D, future agenda items. Requests from the board members for future agenda items can be made at this time. Any request? Move on to E, our upcoming meeting. Next meeting of the CTA Board of Directors will be February 8th, 2021 at 4 p.m. Maybe next month we'll be in our old home, in the conference room. Item 13, board comments or announcements and requests for information.
I was just going to mention that we are scheduled to be back in the Robert L. Kroll boardroom for our first meeting a week from Thursday. So I suspect that will be the first meeting back of any public meeting back in that room. So the CTA should be back in there for February.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to that. At this time, I'll ask for public comment. Any other public comment?
There is no final public comment, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Last item, number 15, possible action to adjourn. Can I get a motion? We're adjourned.